Merry Christmas or belated Christmas to whoever is watching this video at any particular point in time in the world. And we are going to discuss what Dragon Ball fans wanted, but also what they didn't want from the franchise itself. So the first thing that we are going to talk about, what Dragon Ball fans wanted, is the Dragon Ball Super animated return. This is the most natural and first answer to say, considering the fact that we have gone through the entire Moro arc, we have gone through the entire Granola arc, and we've also just finished the entire superhero arc, even though we had already seen the entire thing in movie form a year prior to this. So you would think, well, we have a lot of manga content that is officially pushed past where we ended the Dragon Ball Super anime. Maybe we should continue this, and considering the fact that we also got a movie adaptation of the whole Broly arc and why Broly is now allies with Goku and Vegeta, it would have been a perfect time for us to get a continuation of the Dragon Ball Super anime, but as far as we're looking at the foreseeable future, that doesn't seem like something we are going to get soon, for reasons we will explain more. But something the Dragon Ball fans also wanted that they actually got would be Tenkaichi 4. But this is something that we can say has not necessarily been just over the last few years. This is something that has been on Dragon Ball fans' wish lists for decades now. But the thing is that the game has legitimately taken so long to come into fruition that I think a lot of Dragon Ball fans kind of accepted in the back of their minds that this would never happen. And the fact that we're going to get this, even though it technically has not come yet, Dragon Ball fans are definitely at least happy in the future for this game, because I did a lot of polls and statistics, and you guys seem to be overwhelmingly excited for Tenkaichi 4 Sparking Zero to come out in the future. Now, when we go on to another thing that Dragon Ball fans have wanted, which we have not gotten, is something that Geekdom has talked about on one of his live streams, where Dragon Ball fans have really wanted to go past the end of Z. So, getting the Super anime to come back is one thing, but for many different reasons, which we can go more in depth with in a future video, Dragon Ball fans are sick and tired of being stuck in this time gap. If you really think about it like this, Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT did totally different things. Dragon Ball GT effectively created filler or its own story past the end of Z, and Super basically filled in the gap between what was supposed to be the end of Z and the defeat of Kid Buu. So when you really think about it, because these two series don't really have as much credibility, we kind of want to go into a period of time where GT is completely overwritten, but the area that would have been Dragon Ball GT's point in time, and just see a completely new story with Oob and all of these original things where we don't already know that the outcome is supposed to be good because we've seen the end of Z. And I feel like going past this, and whether it's Dragon Ball Super or Daima or wherever where we finally go past the end of Z, is something that Dragon Ball fans definitely want, but it's something that we aren't going to get any confirmation with until we know more about Dragon Ball Daima, and even with Dragon Ball Daima, it's unlikely that we're going to go past that point. As of this year, we did not get what we wanted. Another thing that Dragon Ball fans have wanted, which actually came into fruition, give Dragon Ball Super credit, is Dragon Ball fans have wanted Goten and Trunks to finally age. This is something that we have all been talking about since Dragon Ball Super, where Goten and Trunks were perpetually kids for the longest and their designs didn't change at all, and we know that this was clearly a decision, or a lack of a decision, by the higher-ups in Dragon Ball for one simple reason. If you do math, to simplify, the Trunks in the present timeline was technically older than the future version of Trunks up until a certain age, but based off of his design, he still looked like the Trunks from the Buu Saga, but there's kind of an in-between pre-teen Trunks design of future Trunks that we actually saw in the history of Trunks and even in the manga, where he looks older than Kid Trunks from the Buu Saga, but he also looks younger than the future Trunks that went back in time. That in itself is proof that Trunks was supposed to at least look older than what he did, and we never got that until we saw the Dragon Ball Super Hero arc with Goten and Trunks in a time skip we finally got a chance to see Goten and Trunks growing up. So that is one thing that Dragon Ball fans got off of their checklist. Now, we're now going to move on to the things that Dragon Ball fans did not want. And as we just talked about Goten and Trunks in the superhero arc, Dragon Ball fans did not want to spend pretty much an entire year on this superhero manga. Now, the key reason why is for a lot of different reasons. This is very similar to what happened when Dragon Ball Super, the anime, first came out, and we spent a lot of months basically suffering through the Battle of Gods and the resurrection of F-Arcs. And you guys gotta remember, like, every episode is basically just 1 week, so just 4 episodes is a month. So when you think about how much torture we suffered going through pretty much movies that we already knew the outcome in worse form because they stretched out the pacing to fit a 20-minute mark, but then also made the animation worse, that was pretty horrible for Dragon Ball fans to go through. And in a lot of ways, after reading through the superhero arc, there are some cool little differences, like Qaaman surviving, which opens up the possibility for future stories, and little changes with art and little things here or there, but overall it was pretty much the same exact thing that we saw in movie form. And there's not to insult Dragon Ball Superhero in any stretch of imagination, it was a fairly solid movie, but when you consider the fact that Dragon Ball fans already saw it, it just kind of took a lot of excitement away from the fan base that we have to wait even longer because we get 1 chapter a month. And considering the fact that we get 1 chapter a month, it takes even longer to get through an arc that we already experienced through movie form. So, for all of those reasons, that is one thing Dragon Ball fans definitely wish they had their time back on. Now, another thing Dragon Ball fans didn't want, and I'm going to say this with my chest up high because I can say for the most part that the fan base is fairly indifferent, or the fan base is negative on the existence and the upcoming existence of Dragon Ball Daima. Dragon Ball fans did not ask for Daima. Even if Daima is good, we're gonna have to wait almost an entire year to figure it out. That's not what we wanted. We wanted Dragon Ball Super, we wanted to see a continuation of the more familiar story, and even if Daima is good, the whole essence of Goku turning into a kid again, and the story that we're believing we're going to see was not in the realm of what fans wanted. So even if you say it's good, it's not what fans wanted, and that's what this video is about. And last but not least, to finally sum everything up with number 7, what Dragon Ball fans did not want is a hiatus on the Black Frieza arc, because, as you guys know, we're not going to get a chapter the upcoming month, which means that we're not going to have any idea as to what's going to even happen with the Dragon Ball Super manga. And considering the fact that we wanted to get something recent in the most recent chapter that would lead us to the Black Frieza arc, because it's like, well, you've recycled Frieza as a villain so many times, but he's probably the only character that can somewhat save Dragon Ball at this point. You didn't even give us Frieza. So because of all of this, that's one other thing too, where we're pretty much waiting to see what's going to happen with Black Frieza, who's the strongest character, or mortal that we should say, in the universe, and we're going to have to wait and see if they even attempt to even bring his story into fruition.